specific hospital that its primary assignment is to kill people. Hospitals are set up to make people better, to heal people. Health workers are trained to save lives. Hospitals are set up to be a place where people will come with health condition and live there with a better health. And if in any situation they don't live their life, it should have been that everybody there were able to do their best as required by their professional competence, medical ethics, and all of that. And the goal of everyone, health workers, is to make the life of their patients better, to contribute to the healing. Of course, God has license to life. God creates, God has the absolute control about who lives and who doesn't live. But based on medical science, based on medical knowledge and all of that, health workers get to play their part, and hoping for the best possible outcomes. And nothing gives a healthcare professional, at least the professional ones, because we also have folks who are not professional and also have outliers, So, but majority derive so much joy from having to see that their patient is happy, and that also make them happy. And if you are in a location where most of your patients, you get to lose them, most of your patients get into worse situation, it also affects the mental health of the health workers themselves, and it doesn't quite make them happy. And one of the reasons why a lot of Nigerian healthcare professionals are leaving the country is not entirely based on money-related issues. Of course, everyone needs money and everyone needs better pay. But the work environment and the overall state of our health care system is in a way that people don't derive joy practicing what they are so passionate about, largely due to some factors outside their control. Of course, there are significant factors within their control. So and when those results or the outcomes are not quite encouraging, they start looking for where they could possibly just work and have fun doing what they love doing. So if our healthcare system is stronger and better, if our primary healthcare is doing fine and we have less crowd in teaching hospitals trying to treat cough and catarrh or trying to treat somewhat complicated situations, then, everybody will get to do what they need to do and we have better satisfaction. Honorable Engineer, I'm seeing it's like you requested to speak. Big vein. So, okay. So, because it's evening, this is actually not the best time for Twitter Space because, especially Nigerian Twitter, people are on their way back home, away from work and all of that. So, usually people get relaxed more at night when they've got home and perhaps had their dinner, and they're able to participate. So I can understand if we don't have as much presence, but also participants are not only those residents in Nigeria. So we also have those who are, I can see Laz Ude Eze, who is based in the UK and all of that. So I'll quickly run through what I put down, and also hoping to hear from everyone who want to speak. So I see, okay, I'm getting a number of requests. So I'm going to accept that and also get to hear, yeah. Okay, so what I've been saying so far, just more like introductory notes and stuff like that. So I want to highlight some signs that if someone takes, especially in emergency situations in Nigeria, you go to a hospital, what are some things you may see that could make you either ask more questions or see this as a red flag and is a sign to say, oh, I don't want to stay here again. I want to move to another health facility and all of that, to avoid a situation where there could be loss of life. So those common signs that are not technical, and those loss of life could be from negligence, it could be from lack of the tools they need to do their job. It could be from nosocomial infections, that's hospital-acquired infections due to filthy environment and stuff like that, So let's look at the infrastructure. The hospital environment is supposed to be a place that, could be inspiring life. Someone is ill, a lot of ideas is running through the person's head, and the person is not so just thinking, oh, will I live, will I not live? The hospital environment should be an environment you look around and be like, wow, this world is beautiful. I want to stay longer here. The persons working in the environment should be acting or even looking like angels. Oh, this place, I need to stay longer here. Or even in such a way that we inspire hope, we inspire faith, we inspire confidence in the patient. Like, okay, yeah, with what these people are doing, I believe they know what they are doing. I'll get better. So there is the psychological component of it, and the environment could help to inspire that. So if you have a health facility that is unkempt, is very dirty, the infrastructure is filthy and all of that, things are just not looking good and stuff, especially if it's not kept clean, it's not a place to be. Because you go with one health condition, others go, especially for infectious diseases. Some might even be non-communicable diseases that may have weakened the person's immune system. And you go there, you pick up additional infections. You go with one, you pick up something else. It may actually be what might complicate the person's situation. You end up spending more money than you could have done, or having an hospital-acquired infection. You went with one, that one got cured, you now picked up another one and continue treatment. So very dirty and unkept environment is a red flag. And as a patient, patients can demand, especially if you are in a location where you don't have much options, you can demand that the place should be kept clean, assuming it's not being kept clean. Then also on infrastructure, any hospital should be able to have basic resuscitation equipment. For instance, things like stretcher. When people have road traffic accidents or injuries sustained from falls and things like that, especially if it's situations where you suspect there could be injury to the head, and if there is head injury, of course, the neck is affected, the spine is at risk, especially the cervical spine and all of that. So some basic stuff like rigid neck collar, having stretcher and stuff, the patient is brought and is laying on the stretcher and taken to the emergency room where there has to be oxygen. It's not everybody that will need oxygen anyway, but it should be available at all times, because for those who might need it, it might just be what could save their life. You should have defibrillators. Defibrillators is not what you need for every patient, but persons with some kind of medical emergencies, it could just be the lifesaver for them. especially those who have sudden stoppage of the heart and stuff like that. Any standard hospital should be able to, should have a blood bank, no matter how small it could be, because availability of blood could just be what will save the life of someone who comes with, severe bleeding, going into shock and all of that, having anemia, severe anemia and stuff. And it could be that before it gets to the next health facility, you could die just because of excessive blood loss. So having the facility to even collect blood and screen the blood and give in that situation is life-saving. And in emergency situation, not having this could just make the hospital what I call killer hospital. The language might not be most appropriate, but is to get the attention it deserves, because even if it's one life that is lost due to some things that are highly preventable, then it's huge. Because since we cannot replace any life, then any situation within our control that medical science has been able to provide solutions, so we shouldn't allow it to cost any life. So some hospital can be big, can be looking beautiful with flowers and all of that. But in terms of number or quality of the personnel is lacking. And a number of private hospitals are that way, especially in rural communities or semi-urban locations, where regulation and people are not so very well informed. So some persons just invest, even within cities, places like Lagos. You see some hospitals that the environment is so fine, the bill is so high, but the quality of personnel they are hiring is questionable. So some will not even hire qualified nurses, professional nurses registered with the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. They just bring persons, give them 1 or 2 weeks training and put them on uniform because they want to pay them peanuts. So such hospitals that could be big and beautiful, but with incompetent or with quacks, people who are not trained, or even people who are trained, but they are brought in to perform responsibility that is beyond the scope of their skills. That is still quackery, even if the person is a doctor. If you bring me as a doctor with my specialty in public health and all of that, and I'm hired and I have to start performing surgical procedures that I don't have experience, or maybe the last time I did it was 10 years ago, and there's nobody to assist, and I just suddenly have to start doing it again. That's also quackery and could lead to complications or loss of life. That's red flag. So in infrastructure, it has to do with building, the equipment, the number which is basic. We are not even talking about the high-falutin ones, or we are just talking of having oxygen cylinder, or for the hospitals that can afford to reticulate hospital oxygen in this emergency room, defibrillators, sphygmomanometer, thermometers, things used to check vital signs that are functional and given the accurate figures. Some electronic sphygmomanometer, even thermometer, sometimes that are due to low battery or for whatever reason, they might be giving wrong numbers, especially for BP apparatus. If you give wrong number, you make a wrong diagnosis, you give the patient wrong treatment, which can also lead to loss of life. So there are biomedical engineers in bigger hospitals that should see to some of this equipment maintenance and stuff like that. So coming to service delivery, what thing that could most potentially lead to loss of lives in emergency situations is slow response. Of course, there are various forms of delays in emergency situations, whether it's emergency obstetric care or any other form of emergency. There could be delay from the point of decision on what to do. Okay, what do we do? Do we go to prayer house and be pouring holy water, or do we go to this hospital, who gets a vehicle and all of that, so that decision on the step to take, instead of even decision of trying to do self-help before going to hospital, can be a form of delay. Because of delay in terms of the means of going to the nearest hospital, either there's no vehicle to go, or the vehicle is there, there's no fuel, there's no ambulance to move patient. Those ones also cause delay. But now when you get to hospital, there shouldn't be delay at all. So if you have a hospital where there is emergency situation and there are delays, but there are a number of things that could cause delays. Some could be beyond the control of the health workers. Some are also within the control of the health workers. The ones that is beyond the control of the health workers is if that hospital is maybe the population it serves is a very large population, and there's always crowd there. You come to the emergency room, everywhere is filled up, and the people who are working there are busy working, So if you bring additional patient, they are responding to emergency already, and new emergencies are coming. They are not going to divide themselves. So the new one will be waiting, and they are trying to save one, another one is coming, so everywhere is chaotic, and they are under pressure. The people who bring some is under pressure and all of that. So that one is beyond the control of the health worker, because there is a limit to how many you can take care of at the same time. However, some are within the control. The place is not busy. A patient is brought in. Someone is there pressing phone or making long personal phone call and laughing and all of that, or just doing something that is not, and attention is being drawn. Doctor, we brought a patient, or nurse, we brought a patient. Okay, wait, we are coming. And they are just gisting away or eating granola or something. So that is also expressed in some places where there's no that sense of urgency, or even communicating with the patient. Okay, how is it? You're well. What's the issue? Someone is telling you about it. You're checking vital signs. Documenting. You're already, trying to communicate with team and get a number of things ready. So, or if the hospital doesn't have maybe a breakdown of some vital equipment, and you feel that, oh, you can't take this patient, you must still take vital signs. Vital signs, checking blood pressure, checking the pulse rate, the temperature, and of course the weight and stuff like that. So if you check the blood pressure, you'll be able to know whether this person have a life-threatening situation. If the blood pressure is too low or too high, that's a red flag. There's something urgent you may have to start doing, or even accompanying them to a location they'll get the proper care, assuming that they don't have you don't have what it takes to manage it there. So slow response to emergency is a red flag, and when any hospital you have those kind of slow responses for one reason or the other, then it's a red flag, it's a killer. Then rejection of patients with gun injuries. The compulsory treatment of patients with gun injuries or gunshots, there is a law enacted in 2017, signed by President Buhari, I think 30th December 2017. He made it compulsory that any patient with gun injury, you must commence treatment. You don't say there must be police report before you treat. So you must start the treatment. But while you're resuscitating the patient, someone in the hospital should communicate law enforcement agents to say, we have a patient with gun injuries, but you must not insist on getting any form of report, whether written or verbal, from law enforcement agent before you start attending to the patient. The first is to respond and stabilize the patient, and communicate to the law enforcement agents that you have a patient with gun injury. And that's what that law says, because of the gross abuse of and intimidation of health workers as well by security agents who go and arrest health workers for treating persons with gun injuries and accuse them of being accomplices to a crime they know nothing about. So that law has provided protection. And Section 20 of National Health Act 2014 also said in situation of emergency that on no account should a health worker refuse to provide care to patients for no reason in emergency situation. And for anybody that is convicted, could be jailed for 6 months or pay 200,000 or both. That's Section 20 of the National Health Act. So if you have hospitals that have penchant of rejecting patients with gun injuries, it displays perhaps lack of information on the part of the healthcare providers. And if they don't know of such regulation, it also suggests that there are many other things they may not know about or some other law that the hospital will be breaking for one reason or the other. And that is not good enough for the patient. So in that situation, that hospital shouldn't inspire patients' confidence. It's a potentially killer hospital. Insistence on deposit before treatment in emergency situation. This is like number 5, what I've mentioned. Insistence on deposit before treatment in emergency situation. Okay, this is one aspect that a lot of persons complain a lot about, especially in private hospitals, where in very clear emergencies, pay deposits of this amount before we start. Okay, has it always been like that? That insistence has led to the loss of the lives of many patients. So, however, there's something that led to that. Private hospital is business. So, a number of times, and I've had such experience, though not in a private hospital, but in a public hospital, where patients will be brought in emergency situation, they get treated. Maybe when they get better, they disappear. Including their relatives that may be taking care of them. They just plan about it. One person will leave and say he's going to get food. Before you know it, the other one will do as if has gone to urinate, and you'll not see them again. So if that happens once, twice, or 3 times in a private hospital, they run the risk of shutting down, because if they use their commodities, drugs, and a number of things to care for the patient, and the patient goes away and they lose money, which money are they going to use to pay the health workers? Which money are they going to use to make other expenses in the hospital? So this does not justify insisting on deposit before treatment, but is a cost. So for this to change, it means that, okay, citizens will also have to be responsible. Then the National Health Act, Section 20, that says on no account should emergency treatment be denied by a health worker. In Section 11 of the Act, it provides for basic healthcare provision fund, and 5% of that fund is supposed to be used to provide cover for management of emergency situations. So Section 20 was derived, was put there with the assumption that there is already money in Section 11 that will be used to cover those cases, so that the health worker doesn't even need to, whether you have government or private hospital, don't need to bother whether someone will escape, because you have a way of getting your money back. So, but since 2018, since 2019, that the first money was disbursed in basic healthcare provision fund, up till now, about 200 billion naira would have been budgeted between 2018 and now. And out of that, I'm not sure if up to 100 billion has been disbursed. So, but even at that aspect of emergency care has not been implemented. So these are some of the issues. So it's an ongoing conversation. We have to begin to ask the political actors and our leaders to solve this problem. There is a concern for those who have private clinics that, okay, if they have 10 patients in emergency and they treat maybe 3 or 4 may escape because the bill is huge. So when they get better, they escape and they don't have money to get. That's a legitimate concern, because if it continues and the hospital shut down, even those with money will not be able to access care. That is even worse, for the community and the population it serves. Then the patients too, especially in emergency situations, there's road traffic injury, good Samaritans have moved people to the hospital. They don't even know them. They believe on getting there, they will be resuscitated, they will get better before you begin to ask them, okay, where are you from? How do we get to your people and all of that to get payments made? So, and the citizens also deserve to get treatment in emergency situation without any encumbrance. So that also has to be solved. So, and it's a major killer for any hospital that is insisting on that. It has killed a lot of patients in emergency situation. Then let me now go to human resource. Of course, all these things we say has a lot to do with the staff. The biggest or the most important block in the health system or functionality of the health sector is the human beings, just like in every other sector. But oftentimes, in Nigeria, the political actors are usually invest more they put in more money for procurement of equipment or in building magnificent buildings, calling it state of the art or modern hospital, some kind of big names like that, and there's no time better than now to, there's no time better than now to see the impact of human resource crisis in the health sector. We are at a time that the health workers are leaving in droves, especially nurses and doctors. Lab scientists are also leaving, pharmacists are also leaving. Every other person is leaving for one reason or the other. So right now, people in hospitals employ some health professionals, and within a short while, they lose them. Some specialists are already very scarce, and even for hospitals that are looking for them to hire, they are not seeing people to hire. It's extremely bad. You will not realize this if you've not had cause to go to hospital and seek some kind of care. And as this is happening, it's increasing the workload on the people who are remaining. And while their workload is increasing, they are becoming more unhappy because their pay is not rising, but their workload is rising, so they are getting more stressed out, more frustrated. Not many can manage themselves well. So they are unhappy, patients are unhappy, and all of that. And the more unhappy they get, the more they urge to leave as well. So now, beyond those ones that are okay, the general distance, what is expected from a healthcare professional? The healthcare professional is supposed to attend to a patient with respect, with empathy, address the person, treat the person with dignity, and all of that. So if you have a hospital that the workers are rude to patients, that's a red flag. And many times, those hospitals where you have most rude people, any health worker that is very rude is most likely less competent. If you meet healthcare professionals that are sound, that are very good at what they do, more than 9 out of 10 cases, they don't disrespect their patients. They handle their patients. So most of the ones that are not very competent are the ones that are rude, and they use those behaviors to make the patient to be scared of them and not even ask them questions. And when they talk, they shout at them, do you want to teach me my job and stuff like that, or even threaten to abandon them. So it's a red flag in a hospital where you have health workers who are behaving that way towards patients. That's a killer hospital. Refusal of health workers to answer questions to patients. The Patient Bill of Rights that is enabled by the National Health Act 2014 says patients can ask any question related to his or her health. Patient has right to information. Any information that has to do with their health, they have rights to it and to ask questions around it. They have rights to even knowing the costs for fair billing. If you are doing anything for patients, I want to give you this drug, the patient should know the cost of that drug. I want to do this procedure, the patient must know. It's not after all the whole treatment, you come and bring the bill of 500,000 to the patient. You start, how do we come to this? So fair billing and all of those things must be communicated, by the care provider. Anything that is to be done, the reason why it's being done, and all of that. And if there are options, you give the patient options to make informed decision on the option they want to do. And you have written consent if there's any major procedure to be done. So patients are the number one stakeholders in things that have to do with them, and they should know. And if you can't speak their language, you have to get an interpreter. So these are the rights. So if you have a hospital that is not implementing this, then it's a red flag. However, there is something that could make this not very likely, and that's something that is currently called compassion crisis in the health sector. And it's not just in Nigeria. Because of poor investment by the political class, in some parts of the world in the health sector, people are attending to more persons than they should. So if ordinarily you are supposed to spend average of 15 minutes per patient, and you are in clinic for 4 hours, 15 minutes per patient, 4 patients per hour, and 16 patients in 4 hours. But you have 40 patients to attend to within the same 4 hours. There's no way you give as much time to one patient as you would have loved to. And if you start giving 15 minutes per patient, before you get to 40, it's night. It's past the period you are supposed to work. And it increases waiting time for patients and all of that. So sometimes it wouldn't be that the health worker doesn't want to communicate, but it's also constrained by certain realities of, I have loads of patients to see within this specific period of time. And every patient is in a hurry. One is having some discomfort or the other, and all of that. So in an ideal situation, like if you've sought care, especially even in Nigeria, some of these private hospitals, not everybody could afford it. They schedule you the time to come. You go, you have your time, the gist, you won't talk about many things and all of that. Now your money they go, So it happens here as well. But majorly, government hospitals are more affordable, and you have more crowd there. People who work there tend to do more work and stuff. So, but having root staff and having health workers who don't answer questions, especially in some of these small private hospitals that don't hire professional nurses. They just bring people, after 1 week, they give them uniform. People start calling them nurse. If you ask a question to a health worker and it's rude, as a patient, you can assert your rights. And you can even demand to know the qualification of that care provider. So many times when you probe, you may even find out that the person being called a nurse is not actually a nurse. And they are the ones that bring a bad reputation to knowledge. That doesn't mean that you don't have some doctors or nurses or people that are rude. You have them in every profession, So, but majority of the professionals are well behaved. So, but for those outliers, there are no excuses. If you go to such place and see those signs, please take a run if you have options. Use of quacks for service delivery. I defined quackery earlier. A quack could be that this person doesn't have the basic qualification to practice in the first place. So the person, some hospitals and maternity homes will just go and bring maybe secondary school leavers or volunteers in the community, and they're assisting them to clean the place and all of that. Before you know it, that same person will start giving injection as people will start, if you start calling the person a nurse. That's quackery. Some of them will even go to the extent of doing what they call training and giving them certificates, and those ones will start parading themselves as health professionals. It's quackery. For you to be a nurse, you must have, I'm using that of nursing because it's one of the most abused in terms of quackery, So you have to be licensed by Nigerian Nursing and Midwifery Council after attending School of Nursing or Midwifery for at least 3 years, or going to a university where you do a BSc in Nursing Sciences for 5 years, So without that, the person is not a nurse. But you also have other cadres, community health extension workers, those who attend School of Health Technology. So community health extension workers, junior community health extension workers, community health officers, environmental health officers. You have other cadres of health workers who work more in the community. Environmental health officers are not primarily trained to be in the health facility, be giving injections to patients and doing every day, So as the name suggests, they are trained for, on environmental health, which is an area of public health. They work in communities. They are the ones who check where restaurants, canteens, and make sure that they are observing the standard environmental listing. They ensure that waste disposal within companies, within the entire community is properly done. They are the ones that ensure that the community, they are not doing open defecations because of, the potential infectious diseases it introduce to the environment, ensuring that their water bodies are okay and all of that. So, but what we have now is in some health facilities, you have people with that training that staying in, even in some places, you have those they call CCKs, Chief Cemetery Keepers, and they are working also. What's the business between someone that is a cemetery keeper that should be in the burial ground, or mortuary per se? What's the business of that person staying in the health facility and be giving injection to patients? And these are things we see around. So quackery is a very huge problem. But you also have quackery of professionals doing what they are not trained to do, like a CHU pretending to be a nurse, or a pharmacist pretending to be a doctor, or a doctor doing the job of a medical laboratory scientist if he's not trained, if he doesn't specialize in that area and all of that. Health space is just everybody wants to be everything. A medical doctor own a hospital, we go and hire, pick people, train them and start calling them nurses. A lab scientist will open up a lab and start giving injections, start prescribing drugs. You do a test, you tell you it's typhoid and malaria, go and buy social drugs, So all these things are quackery. When you start going beyond your area of training, then it's a red flag because it can cause complications for the patient. It can also cause lead to death in a number of situations. Then issuance of laboratory test results. This should be number 11. I wrote down 13, so I'm almost there, and we'll open up for other people. I can see a number of my colleagues who are here, so they may even have so many other things to add to the conversation. So issuance of laboratory test results purportedly conducted in the absence of power supply. A colleague of mine, a doctor, went to a health facility. A lab. He took a patient's sample to do a test, food blood count. So there was no power supply there, and they took the sample, took the money, they asked him to wait. Then after some time, they brought a result. And he demanded to know how you take do the test now. There's no light. The device you need to do this investigation may need to be powered and all of that. And this was many years ago, though. Then they say, don't worry, we have a computer. That computer can do any kind of test. So we just use it to, check the computer. It doesn't need lights, just. So, and these things happen. Those who work in the lab know more about this. That some places you also have quacks within the lab who just set up things. taking money from people. You will also have even some professionals who do this just to make money, out of laziness or out of whatever. They know they don't have the reagents, or there's no power supply to get the stuff done. They just do guess. Okay, malaria was there, plus. This other one, they just look at you and show this thing, take money and give you test results. And this is one of the reasons why some hospitals will insist that, okay, if you bring a test result from some places, they say they don't trust it. They'll ask you, go and repeat it. Even though sometimes it might be due to the fact they don't trust it. Another time it could also be to the fact that they want you to go there because they have commission for sending somebody there and all of that. So a combination of factors for this. So, but in that situation where you suspect foul play in terms of test results, then that health facility is a killer, because if you make a wrong diagnosis and make wrong treatment, it's a serious threat to life. Then another important point, as it has to do with human resource, is delayed or non-payment of health workers. Look, the health sector or the medical practice is very jealous in terms of its time. It requires full concentration. It requires the worker to be fully there, mentally speaking, physically, and all of that. And even from the training, you see that those in medical sciences don't have as much time to engage in extracurricular like others, because the profession is jealous of time. It really wants to share its time with other things. Because of the level of concentration, just a minute of loss of concentration may just lead to loss of life. So if you now have a situation where health workers is not being paid and is under pressure to meet some financial obligations, such person is not going to concentrate to provide the best possible quality of care the patient needs, and in some cases, they may even begin to make certain decisions that will not be in the best interest of the patient, that could just be for the purpose of making money to survive. So if you have a hospital where the workers are always complaining of they are not paying them, they are not doing this, it's a red flag. That hospital cannot give you a good quality service, So just as is in every other area. So the fact that the person is a doctor or a nurse is not a superhuman being. If the doctor is not in the best mental state, he cannot give the patient the best quality of care. If the scientist is not in the best mental state, he could do mistakes while performing the tests or the investigation. Same with the radiologist. He could be doing ultrasound and will be seeing the computer is showing something, is interpreting something else. You might be seeing, the baby is normally located. You'll be interpreting, this baby is ectopic. And if he writes his ectopic pregnancy, it completely changes the line of management. You might need to go to a theater, up the woman, get the uterus to discover it's not ectopic. And I've seen this happen, and I have a book I wrote recently. It's going to be published, released by next month or so. I'll make a hospital work. So I have a number of examples of some of these things. So it's a red flag, and we should run away from such hospital that is chronically owing its workers. Then, yeah, I think that's essentially some of the things I've put down in terms of how to identify killer hospitals. This conversation was inspired by the video that circulated yesterday on social media. Of course, a lot of persons here know Rico Swavey, who was a Big Brother Naija season 3 housemates. I met him once, I think that year when they're out of the house and all of that, so, but at least both those that watched him in the house know he's a very lively guy, young man with a lot of dreams and all of that. His family history states a lot of emotions. He's said to be the only child and all of that, so having that accident, taken to a health facility. On Twitter, people have been mentioning names of hospital. Well, I can't mention that because I'm not sure if the information is accurate. But what I saw in the video is utterly unprofessional, utterly unprofessional. And I do hope that the Lagos State government by now should have, started taking certain actions. And even the hospital that is involved should also take actions. In emergency situation, number one is you don't video a patient. If at all any video should be made, it should be for advancing medical knowledge. And it has to be done with consent. And if it's a situation where you can't take consent, the identity of the patient must be concealed. So in advancing medical knowledge is not to be posted on social media. It has to be video that when the doctors or the health workers are doing their clinical meetings or scientific meetings, you want to see that, okay, this is the state the patient presented, these were the things you did, and this is the current state now, just, for visualization. And it's not that kind of video where you are showing someone the whole body. It's not even lying in a normal way, because having accidents and sitting on a wheelchair or whatever is not the point. There should have been a stretcher. It should be lying flat with rigid neck collar, that will stabilize the neck to make sure that if there is any shift in the neck bones, the vertebra, it doesn't injure the spinal cord, because sometimes the process of moving the person can actually cause more injuries. The person recovers, comes out of consciousness, and finds out you can't move the hand, you can't move the legs, you can't control urine or control defecation and stuff like that due to quadriplegia and all of that, incontinence arising from spinal cord injury, which may not even occur when the accident happened. It could just be in the process of moving the patient, So, and instead of everyone being busy, doing something, and if you don't have what it takes to give that patient full treatment he or she desires, you must at least run some vitals, know the situation, start resuscitation, ABC or resuscitation, that the airways are open and clear, the patient is breathing, and there is circulation. And you refer to another place and possibly even accompany the patient to that next hospital to make sure that you are taking some interventions. So it's unprofessional conduct. Usually when stuff like this show, people use it to rob the entire health system, but that's the nature of the this thing. One life is very precious, so you can't begin to count numbers. It's just 1 out of 1 million. Even that 1 out of 1 million is huge. And that's why the medical profession, the medical practice is designed in a way that, you can't take any chances that will potentially, worsen the situation. Of course, we can't say whether Rico's death is caused by the delay, or maybe people were doing video and all of that. We don't have full information to make any conclusive statement, but the optics, you can do your best sometimes and may still lose a patient, but that best must be done and must be seen to be done, and if anything in that video is anything to go by, it suggests that at that particular hospital where the video was taken, the patient didn't get the best, because people who are offering the best wouldn't possibly have time to be taking videos. Taking it is one thing, finding its way to social media is another thing, because even though I'm not quite close to Rico, but I know a number of persons who are very close to him, and I know how traumatized that video even made them be while they were still trying to cope, especially his fellow housemates, our friends, close friends, still trying to cope with the shock of the news of his death, and only for that video to surface online. So it's something that should never really happen. And such hospitals, I don't mince words when I kind of talk about hospitals that do things that are not, because I usually put myself in the picture that it could be me, it could be my friend, it could be my family, but it could be anyone, So what if it's me? That a medical doctor doesn't make me immune. I'm still a human being. I can have accidents, I can have injuries, I can die, anything. Could be anyone. So no error should be justified, or if anyone does, if he's a health worker, that person should face the music. In the countries where people are more comfortable, you're at the edge. You don't even use your private phone while at work. You don't. You come, you keep your phone somewhere, any call will enter voicemail. When you reach out, you will begin to listen to the messages. Within the hospital, you to communicate, use intercom and all of that. And if at all you are using it mainly for communication with colleagues, as it has to do with patient's care. So, but in some places you have people who will be doing private call, and a patient is in pain, calling their attention and say, wait, now they come. And they'll be chatting on, on their distance. So those are red flags, and those are things we must begin to do. Many times we have these emotional outbursts and reactions, and everyone moves on. But this is 2022, and it's an election season. We must begin to have these conversations with the mind of not just lamenting about them, but also suggesting solutions, asking real questions, asking tough questions to those who are aspiring to lead. These things have been there. Should they remain there? Should we get used to them, waiting for the next victim? No. Health workers are also victims as well. Even in the hospital where you work, when you are sick and all of that, sometimes you cannot, if you don't have money to pay for certain investigations to be done, the test will not be done, and you just be going down. It happens. Or it will take approval for some things to be done. If the approval doesn't come on time, the health worker will die. So these are the things I feel we should have this conversation on. I host a TV program on AIT Tuesday 6:30 p.m. And from next week, there is a segment on Talking with Dr. Laz that will be talking about Health Agenda 2023. So we want to be talking with healthcare governorship candidates or presidential, and even perhaps the legislature, on what's their health agenda as they are contesting. On Thursdays, 7 p.m. on the YouTube channel, Talking on Nigeria TV, we also begin to have the conversation. Representatives of political parties and candidates as well, to begin to talk about their health agenda, and even citizens begin to set agenda on things that we want, because it's not every time they are raising buildings, they are not hiring people. Those they hire, they are not paying them. Those they are paying, they are not well paid. There's no equipment to work. Where you put equipment, they don't train people on how to use them. Where you even train people on how to use them, it gets breakdown, nobody to maintain it. So a whole lot of issues that is making the system not to work for everybody. So to make our hospital work, we have to begin to focus a lot on addressing the root causes and all of that. So I've spoken alone for like an hour. So I now want to open this thing for others to speak. Okay, I can see Meg raising up her hand. So Meg, you may proceed to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laz. I don't know if you're a doctor or a health practitioner. I want to pay
yeah, I'm a doctor.
Yeah. You're a doctor, yeah, Dr. Laz, because I like to give people their appropriate titles. My husband retired in Shell. He had issues. Okay, he came in for a while and was just he was doing business in Nigeria. All of a sudden, he started having acute stomach. I'm going somewhere with this story. Acute stomach, whatever. And the next thing, because it was him and the gate man, he collapsed. The gate man called me, madam, I just said, okay. He has an HMO as a retiree. And they rushed him to hospital. I don't want to mention the hospital. It's a hospital in VI because he's a Shell retiree. You can imagine the HM, they had to choose the best of the best. You've mentioned everything, but I want to paint another scenario that you might not, so that in your program, you can also bring it up. So they got there and did the initial thing. They said it was gastrointestinal, what, a lot of story. They brought in a consultant who looked at my husband and said, surgery. And my husband is learned. He has traveled, so I can't begin to, in his weakness, because I was in touch, it was just frantic. So I called him. I said, what is the doctor? My husband laid down there weak for days. He was in this condition. This so-called consultant was insisting, surgery. Before you know it, they brought a bill of close to 3 million. They want top shell money. Say make he sign. My husband said, no, I want a second of you. Dare doubt me? You doubt me with all my professional capability and I am making a conquer. My husband said, no.
Bluetooth connected.
In practicing for over 15 years because my husband had to, he did a search on him or something. So he's a professional. He's not one training us. Then two,
Yeah.
we had to just hold on. Well, I'm wrapping up. So what we had to do was, of course, Shell investigated and all that, and they removed them from their HMO. They kept, when they were begging my husband, don't report it, and you know how where we live, we report things. People get sued, people lose their job. So we reported it, and right now that hospital is off Shell's HMO. Please, can you address that? Where a medical, somebody will not take, feels, number one, patients should not have a second opinion. Number two, oh, you are supposed to question me. I'm supposed to tell you what is wrong with you and all that. I have the final say. And number three, where a doctor will want to make money off a patient. Please kindly address that, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for sharing that experience. Of course, it's unethical, it's unprofessional. I said at the beginning, some of the rights, there's a patient bill of rights derived from the National Health Act 2014. So patients have rights to information, and any information that has to do with his or her health can ask any question and deserve to get an answer in the language he or she best understands. If you can't speak that language, you must find someone who will interpret to that patient. Patient must be part of every decision, and patient has the right to get a second opinion if he so wishes. There's no barrier to that. Of course, people make certain decisions, make money. So nothing justifies that. Decisions should be in the best interest of the patient, should be the most effective options, that is most cost effective. you know, and you put options to the patient. Okay, this one, these are the merits, these are the demerits, these are the potential complications if you do this, this other one. But when you just start you've not even reviewed the findings, you've not even touched the patient, you've not read this thing, and you just like, oh, surgery, theater. It happens, and it happens a lot, even in Lagos and Abuja, most of these urban places and even rural places, because when they go open up and close, any amount they call, you are willing to pay it, because they can tell you, you see what they remove, this one, that one, and you're not there to argue or anything. So it's malpractice. And what we're not doing well enough in this part of the world is reporting people getting justice. Many times is you're not doing it because it might change what may have happened. Sometimes there's even loss of life, and people will be, if I do this, will the person wake up? Will they come back? Let me leave it to God. We've left so many things to God. Meanwhile, God created us, gave us brain and knowledge to get certain things. The reward system, we should be rewarding. Let those who have good experience tell their stories, eulogize those that treat them well, hail them, and all of that, you know. And those who have bad experience should also tell the stories so that others could learn. I don't quite agree with concealing the name of a hospital. If a hospital does something bad, let them become popular for doing bad. You know, if they do good, let them become popular for doing good, you know. So there is a hospital in Kubwa here in Abuja, Pison Hospital, and in Kubwa, big with flowers and looking beautiful on the outside. You know, a friend of mine, the wife was pregnant, had spotting, went to the hospital, and in fact, they actually went to a different hospital before, like on a Friday, and they checked and said, okay, you should have bed rest. The baby is intact and all of that, you know. So the woman should have bed rest. The next day, they saw the spotting again, and they panicked, feeling as if, okay, with the bed rest, they will not see it again, and went to the other hospital. The doctor wasn't around, so they went to Pison and say, okay, it's incomplete abortion. We have to do evacuation. I have my doubts if it's actually that case of this thing, because it was just spotting. It wasn't heavy flow or whatever. So the same as what they experienced the previous day. There was no pain or anything, you know. So prepped the woman, did the procedure like on the Monday, herself, all of that. The doctor finished, commotes, left with people they called nurses. I seriously doubt if they were actually nurses. So the woman was complaining, oh, I'm dizzy, I'm weak. I said, Madam, don't worry. Yeah, it's just maybe the effect of the drug they gave you, you know, you'll be fine. And she was bleeding internally until she went into shock in the hospital. They tell the husband, bring this, bring that. Oh, okay, we need blood. The doctor on call came in the evening and checked the patient, PCV 13%, severe anemia. She was already in shock and unconscious. So donated the first unit of blood, you know, transfused. She came around, moved a bit and all of that. So they were happy. They needed to transfuse at least 3 straight up, you know, in the first instance. To take the second, donors were around, take the second thing. They say blood bag don't finish. It was night. Started making call the colleague Arempa, you know, that one say, okay, yes, we have blood in our facility. Husband moto with the friends, they ran, big blood in Warempa, came back. Oh, the blood is too cold. The woman is in shock, so you can't give someone that is something that low temperature and all of that. It could stop the heart and stuff, you know. So let's wait for the blood to warm up a bit. All these were happening, and the woman died, age 25, a week after she finished her NYSC, her second pregnancy, and all of that. You know, of course, unfortunately, I got to here when the woman was already dead, So I asked questions, what happened, all this were narrated. We were mad. I said, we're going to take on this hospital. The lawyer, one of our friends, seized the folder. We went and reported to the police, wrote petition and all of that. He's invited. I went there, so that if they tell some lies, I was able to capture from the professional perspective. It was crazy. We were very upset. We were, so the man was begging behind the scene, let's settle out of court, let's pay you people so amount, So to cut the long story short, these are some things that get to happen, and we'll do nothing about it. Perhaps, hopefully, that experience could have made the hospital maybe change to be better and all of that, So, but I can't tell the story without mentioning the hospital. So, if they are better, they are the ones to use their quality of care, to prove to patients that will be going there that yes, we made some mistakes in the past, we've learned from it, and we are doing much better now. Because your biggest persons to tell about the hospital are the clients, those who went through there, should be able to say, okay, yeah, this is how we're treated. So I think someone else is raising hand. Let's get to hear that. But those decisions made based on money, it happens. People take advantage of patients. It's unprofessional. It's uncalled for. And anyone that feels cheated should be able. Last week on my TV show on AIT, the topic was on the rights of patients and grievance resolution mechanisms and all of that. Maybe I could tweet the link, or if you check Talk Health Niger TV on YouTube, we also watch that video. So there's a professional who talks about details on patient's bill of rights and the processes to take if you feel aggrieved. But I also have to add, as a health worker, that in as much as we call out those who do wrong, we should also hail those who do well, because right now in Nigeria, for those who are still around, it's not as if they don't have options. As more people are living, it's crazy, and people are going out of the way. Health workers contribute money sometimes to take care of patients. Health workers donate blood sometimes to save the life of their patients. Some go out of their way to improvise certain things just to save their patients. Many of those stories don't get told. So, but they also happen. So it's not entirely the crazy ones, but we tend to give that more attention because we don't want it to happen again. We don't want it to continue. So, and that's why it's any case that we get to see, it gets a lot of attention. So the e-health nurse Buchi, okay, good. Let's hear from you, Nurse Buchi. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laz. Thank you for this topic. What has happened recently is a sad one, but at least it makes us go into these discussions that we should be having all the time. You have raised so many issues. You talked about the workload, the low pay, and everything that's happening in our Nigerian health system. I just wanted to, in fact, it reminds me of my first job in Abuja, and I was the nurse on the night shift that night, and we had a road traffic accident. A man had a Okada accident, and they had to rush him in, bleeding all over his legs. I was a new nurse then, and I didn't even care. I just rushed, got my dressing tray, started dressing. I didn't even ask them, have you paid? Have you bought the card? Have you paid deposit? Nothing. After I treated the man, dressed his wound and everything, just for me to go to the other side of the hospital to get something. By the time I came back, all the people that brought him, they've all disappeared. And the money had to be taken out from my own salary. So next time, these are some of the things that happen in our hospitals. And when health workers don't move or don't behave the way they are supposed to, they get all the blames all the time. But I have to move on to a few things that I think we can use to help ourselves as individuals, as hospitals, as units. First of all, we need SOPs, standard operating procedures. We need policies. We need guidelines. So where I work right now, there's an SOP for everything. There's an SOP for hospital transfer. There's an SOP for even making a call. There's an SOP for emergencies. There's an SOP for everything. And those SOPs are just, if you have this kind of situation. In the case of Rico, came in with a RTA, maybe possible head injury. What do? You do this, you do this, you do this. Those kind of things, we need to print them. Everybody, every staff, every health worker needs to be familiar with them. That when we have an accident case, this is what we do. Secondly, we need equipped facilities in our hospitals, whether private or government. We need equipped facilities. You go into some hospitals, they tell you there's no oxygen, there's no suction machine. If somebody's having respiratory difficulties and I don't have oxygen, I can't help you so much. If there's a lot of fluid in their mouth, secretions, and I don't have suction machine, what do I do? So our hospitals need to be equipped. And sometimes when we come in, the first thing we need to do is check our equipment and make sure that they are ready for the day. It is not when a patient comes in that we now discover that we don't have oxygen. No, you're supposed to know if you had oxygen in the morning when you came in. So this leads me to say we also need continuous training in our hospital. At least once a week, all the staff of the hospital should come together and at least get a training on something. We have YouTube right now. You don't have to pay for it. Get a YouTube video, watch on something, watch on a health condition, watch on an intervention. Just everybody needs continuous training just within that hospital setting so that you know that your staff are up to date. We also need reinforcement of our ethics. The doctors have their ethics, the nurses have their ethics, everybody have their, as well health workers, we all have our ethics. Look at this guy now. His pictures are all over the internet. There's no consideration for privacy. There's no consideration for his confidentiality. There's no consideration for, how his family would even feel. If I was the nurse on duty on that night, I'm going to say, hey, take your video and get off because this is my ward. And you can't be videoing this guy for you to go on the internet 2 days later and everybody will see his last conditions. If it's towards the family taking a video for their own consumption, that's fine. But people just standing around, just making videos, no, that's not acceptable. And this leads me to probably my last point of saying, as health workers, right, you must, when you come into your place of work, you must see yourself as a custodian of health service. You must see yourself as an embodiment of health delivery. You know your job, you know your process in the place where you work. You must begin to deliver healthcare with confidence. When you're working, nobody should be able to override you. See, like in that video, you saw the nurse saying, oh, just come and put your hand. Oh, stop videoing, stop doing that. No, all of that should have been settled at first. So we should begin to galvanize or begin to standardize our jobs in such a way that the public should see us as true professionals. There's no playing around. When you come in, you're here to work, you're here to deliver care. When you go, you know you're off work. But when you're at work, you know you're doing your job. The last point I want to make is our whole system needs overhaul. Like you said, our whole system needs overhaul. The government has to come in. There should be better regulation. We have a lot of quacks in our hospitals, and that all of that should be regulated. Elections have consequences. Next year we're doing elections. Please, let's vote wisely. Our health sector needs a change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nurse Buchi. Those were very brilliant submissions. Very, very, very insightful. Thanks for that experience. Yes, I can see Meg clapping and all of that. So, Dr. Bito, do you want to speak?
Yes. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Laz, thank you so much for this opportunity to be part of this space. I've listened very patiently to your introduction and to everything that you had to say, giving reasons for why the health system is not functional and it's not serving all of us the way that we expect it to. I will just want to highlight a few points. Thank you, the e-health nurse who just spoke some minutes back, and he talked a lot about how health workers should operationalize their services and deliver care, you know, and he spoke a lot about what we are taught while we are being trained as either nurses or medical students or lab scientists. There's so much that's affecting the way we work now that wasn't taught in the classroom while we were learning to become professionals within the health space. And specifically, I would want to talk about emotional intelligence. That's an aspect that we need to expand our experience to cover. And unfortunately, we need to learn it as adults. Empathy is key to delivering efficient healthcare services. First of all, you're meeting a client that is in their most vulnerable situation or position. Many times, these clients called patients are at the mercy of whoever they are seeing at that point in time. It's very important that apart from being experienced at what you do, apart from understanding the anatomy of what is going on, the physiology of what is going on, the medicine and the surgery of what is going on, that you first of all connect to your patient. Very important. Happens most of the time when we deliver services, whether within medicine or outside medicine, is how the service provider made us feel. And that's very important for us to take home today. How did your service provider make you feel? Whether I was at the airport, or I was at Domino's, or I was at my mechanic's store, at my auto mechanic workshop to get my car fixed, or just at the roadside vulcanizer. How did that person make me feel? That's a question that we need to always personalize when we're delivering service. Trying to pick a ticket to watch a movie, trying to buy a few things at the ShopRite store or just at Wuse Market or at Alaba Market in Lagos. How did I feel? How was my experience there? Very important. These are things that we may not necessarily teach in the classroom. But being able to empathize with your client and to reach them at that point of need where you have a special connection is a skill. And that is a skill that doctors, nurses, pharmacists, lab tech people should be able to acquire to serve the large clientele of over 200 million people we have in the country with the scarce resource that we have. So what am I trying to say? The fact that a consultant insists that a person or a patient must have surgery is the same reason a politician gets into office and takes 300 billion naira into his personal account while he was supposed to use that money to build schools, roads, bridges, hospitals in his constituency. The same reason why we are cheated when we get to the vulcanizer who is supposed to deliver service at 500 naira and decides to charge 2,500 instead. It's a systemic problem. It's everywhere. It's not just the medical field that's experiencing it. How much empathy do we have in delivering service to our clients? Wherever you deliver service, as a baker, what kind of flour are you using? What kind of sugar are you using? What kind of butter? You go to the market and you cut corners and you make a cake that's flawed because you want to make, in your mind, more profit. That's the problem we have, and it's everywhere. It's not just the doctors, it's just not the nurses, it's just not the lab tech scientists, not just the pharmacists that have this problem, not just the optometrists, nor the radiographers that have this problem. It's deeply seated in our society. How do we make each other feel when we deliver service? That's an important point in this conversation. Back to what happened with Rico. My condolences to his family. I am a consultant ophthalmologist, and I've practiced as a consultant for over 10 years. So following this conversation was just, I wasn't really going through too much to understand what was going on. And I'm super sorry on behalf of the Nigerian medical system to Rico's family. That medical team that managed him failed us on this account. I'm deeply sorry. There's a duty of care every doctor, pharmacist, lab tech scientist, nurse, optometrist, radiographer owes their patient, the duty of care. While you deliver duty, your services as a medical practitioner, empathy, number one, empathize with them. Try to feel what they are feeling. When you do that, you should, or you are expected to naturally respect them in the process. So, I didn't expect that video out. Unfortunately, he was treated with so much disrespect. Sad.
Yeah.
Please, while we deliver care, empathize. By default, you respect your patient, you will respect your client, and the world will be a better place because people would encounter your service and say, no, go to that place. I enjoyed the last time. I enjoyed the kind of service I got when I was there the last time. Okay? So you are your own self's biggest advertisement, or your own corporation's biggest advertisement. Every time you deliver service, you are advertising Nigeria, you're advertising Yobe State, you're advertising Anambra, you're advertising the FCT, you're advertising your local government, you're advertising your hospital, you're advertising your cake brand, you're advertising whatever it is that you're delivering. Please note that. I'm hoping that Nigeria will get to the point where things can be way better than they are now. It's a work in process, but everybody has a process and a progress. All of us have to put in the work. It's a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. Thank you, Laz, for this opportunity to be on here. And I'm really hoping that we can get better. And I'm willing to come on any show, whatever it is, whatever platform you have. Let's make Nigeria a better place. I am a Niger optimist. I know we can get there. I'm not giving up on my country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bito. Thank you. I know that every opportunity to share knowledge, every opportunity to act, every opportunity to put things straight, you're always part of it. Empathy, emotional intelligence, is an aspect, particularly for the kind of work we do, is an aspect. Thanks for that contribution. Of course, the Health Agenda 2023, which I'll be starting next week, both on Talking Health with Dr. Laz show on AIT on Tuesday. We'll also be having on YouTube Live on Thursday by 7 p.m. We'll be bringing representatives of candidates or their representatives or political parties, as well as professionals as guests, especially on that YouTube live show, because the TV is just 30 minutes. So many times before you get into details, the time is up. So, but we've created a YouTube platform, the Talk Out Niger TV, which also has all our previous shows, to have this conversation. We're also reaching out to try to get presidential candidates to have a separate session to discuss their health agenda. But we are not doing that alone. There are some other key players within the health space, and that conversation is going on. And hopefully, before the elections take place, there will be that forum where a number of the presidential candidates will share their health agenda, and citizens, civil society, and other persons we ask questions. It's not just we'll do free healthcare, we do this, we do that. Some of these things that affect the quality of care, things that are behavioral, Naz Buchi talked about training. Many times we underestimate this. The Basic Healthcare Provision Fund provided 10% of it should go into human resource for health, strengthening for primary health care, to support what state governments are supposed to put in training health workers. Technology, everything is changing and all of that. And some persons are transferring certain behaviors, into the workplace. So those trainings are important. Supervision, providing feedback mechanism, where patients who feel happy should be able to, express themselves to say, oh, I enjoyed this service. Thank you very much. Well done. Those who are aggrieved should also be able to express themselves and their grievances taken care of and all of that. So we have more persons who are also...
Sorry, Laz, 1 minute, please. Before I leave, I quickly wanted to talk about the fact that grievances against doctors, medical doctors in Nigeria, please, should go straight to the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. It's not, the police can't even do so much.
I'm not
please.
Hearing you. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, please. All grievances related to medical doctors in Nigeria. No, don't go to the police.
I'm not hearing you again, Dr. Bito. I don't
please
know if
go
I'm the
to
only
the
one.
Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria.
Hear
Please.
from Dr. Kafo. Hello, Dr. Kafo, are you there?
Hello, Dr. Laz, good evening. Hello, Laz, good evening. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so Laz, how are you doing? How is your family?
We are good, thank you, sir.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Sorry, I was I came late to the program because I had some things to attend to when I left office. So I'm just trying to tell you thank you for this program, for the topic you've introduced this evening. Most times when I look at when we talk on important things that borders the society, we look at the number of people that would show interest. We have barely 15 participants on this space. The truth is that I just wonder, because this is not this problem is beyond what to just discuss on the Twitter space. I just hope that the health system of the country is reformed. We are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. I must be honest with you. You're a doctor, you're a community physician. You know what I'm talking about. This thing, we need to start reforms from the medical school. We are not even paying attention to ethics. Just look at that video. Look at that video. And when I watched the video, I said, I don't blame those people. Most of those nurses or even doctors were just most of them, their ethics, medical ethics teacher these people that come around 4 p.m. every day, they come and stay 30 minutes and leave the class. So practically, our universities don't teach medical ethics. And this should be an integral part of, in fact, more attention should be paid on medical ethics, but we are not actually paying attention to the important aspect of medicine, because there are so many sort of medical negligence going on in the country. People are dying not because of their problem, but because of negligence. Just imagine a situation where somebody, was he an intubator? Was the guy intubated? I struggled to look at the video because it was quite irritating and very, very annoying. So if people are taught in school and we are told the consequences of their action, whether positive or negative action, I think they would sit up. Just imagine how, come to Lagos, for instance. I know when I was when I was like into clinical medicine, where you do consultation, do all these things, you see some owners of private hospitals will just go to one village, pick some people and call them nurses. Most of them will come. Most of them don't even know how to calculate dosage. They don't even know how to, the honest dose of medication, they can't even give it. As a doctor, if you're on duty, sometimes you have to administer medication, so many things, and you have to administer however you are taught to administer. But when you look at the kind of people you work with, and as a doctor, you have so many things on your head, and this character, the kind of character we saw on that video of this guy that making video of somebody that was in coma, and the person that even have the audacity to push the video online for for people to see. So this thing is beyond. Sometimes I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to say, because I think the problem start from, should be tackled at the level of our teachers. But the problem is even our teachers are not well taught. Imagine the situation where your teacher is not well taught and is your teacher. Imagine what that teacher is going to teach. So do we go to these various nursing schools that are operating all over the country? Some don't even have accreditation. Some will, after 1 year or 2 years, somebody will go and concoct one certificate, come to Lagos, come to Abuja.